White House chief strategist, you may have known, Steve Bannon, left on Friday. But now Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin is talking about tax reform. That's going to be today in Kentucky. A lot of things to go through. Let's bring in for their outlook for the Trump economic agenda, GOP strategist Boyd Matheson and Ken Blackwell, former mayor of Cincinnati and domestic policy advisor to the Trump transition team. Gentlemen, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Boyd, let's first start with the policy and the politics of all this. Steve Bannon out at the White House. Does this mean that this is good news for the economic agenda for the Trump administration, in particular tax reform? There are some that have speculated over the weekend that he was more of a hindrance than help when it came to the tax reform agenda for the administration. Boyd.
Yeah. I really do think it's a good thing in terms of tax reform because it's all about focus. And I think what General Kelly is doing as chief of staff is getting all of the distractions out of the way, recognizing that a lot of the people who are great for campaigns are not really good at the governing portion. And Steve Bannon definitely was more not on the corporate tax side, definitely wanted more of the populist component to that. And so I do think it will create more focus for the president and the administration as they go into those negotiations. And I hope they really put some pressure on Mitch McConnell starting today down there in Kentucky, and then move that into the House and Speaker Ryan as well. This is a tall order to do in September, and they've got to get after it and go big.
Well, but you know, Ken, I mean, there's been reports, and this obviously makes sense, that behind the scenes, Stephen Mnuchin and, of course, Gary Cohn have been reaching out across the aisle for months now. I mean, they unveiled this tax reform package back in April. They've been working the phones. You've got 200 senators, congressmen, women that have got to get on board. This has to be, Ken, bipartisan. Is that possible?
I think it's possible, but the Republicans have to be prepared to do it alone. There are two things that they have to do. They have to cut the tax rates, both the corporate tax rates, and they have to bring relief to middle-class families and workers. I think that they will get that done because in the final analysis, infrastructure reform and tax cutting is something that I'm not sure that the Democrats want the Republicans to own lock, stock, and barrel. If they do, we'll take it.
But Ken,
we have to get this done for the workers.
But Ken, that's the question, though. Are the Democrats going to take a page out of the Republican playbook from the last administration and just play obstructionist?
Well, they can be penny wise and a pound foolish. I think they could. That would be foolish. But I'll leave that up to them. We have to get capital that's parked on offshore back into the flow so that we can sustain economic growth at about 4%. I run the numbers with two organizations, the Club for Growth and the Family Research Council, and I think that those are two representatives of the broad coalition across this country that's ready for economic growth, tax reform, and putting people back to work so that we lift the labor participation rate. That's so very important. We have to stay focused on our agenda.
Well, the agenda is very important, Boyd, in particular to the White House. You know, one question here, you've got Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, obviously, and Mitch McConnell today speaking in Kentucky. Does that signal to you that there is going to be more cooperation between the Senate and the White House when it comes to tax reform? The Republicans need a win here, let's be honest.
Yeah, the Republicans definitely need a win, and I don't know if this meeting in Kentucky is indicative of more cooperation or more heat coming from the White House to Mitch McConnell. Leader McConnell has not delivered for the White House, and so I think Mr. Mnuchin going down there to Kentucky is probably a dual thing. Let's get together, let's make this happen, but it's also we're looking over your shoulder, and we expect some results for the American people. This is critical to the Trump administration. These are the forgotten men and women that put them in office. They have to deliver on this in September.
Ken, really quick before we let you go, we expect President Trump to head out to Phoenix tomorrow. It's expected he's going to get somewhat of a chilly reception in Phoenix, a lot of protests. Ken, is it a good idea for the president to head to Phoenix tomorrow, do you think?
I think he should go and stand right there in the well and make his case for safe borders. But look, the message has to be this across the spectrum of our broad coalition. As Ben Franklin said, we either hang together or we hang separately. That's our choice.
Well, Boyd, Ken, gentlemen, thank you very much for being here this morning. There's a lot happening today. We appreciate your perspective.